All right, let's get one of these out. Pause up the music a little bit. I kind of pre-gamed with the music. I was like, I gotta get into the right mood. I'm currently stop that subliminal music. Anyway, I was like, I gotta get to a good headspace, and I'm like bopping, I'm jamming, I'm like ready to go. So, what does that mean? That means that today, I'm solidifying the fact that I like chapter 2. Stop playing music. I'll get there one day. I'll figure it out. I didn't read the manuals on it. No one cares. Anyway, so, filling in chapter 2, what that means for me isn't just writing it. I need an outline. Because I have an overview, I'm getting really technical. There's an overview of it, which is before it was even conceptualized on the characters and the dialogue and things like that. It was an idea of start to finish, the biggest beats, the main things that I wanted to get out of what I'm calling a chapter, but now I'm calling my own bullshit. This is going to go on for a minute, and I enjoy the fact that it's going to go on for a minute. Just visualizing it, it's just you start off with this one character, you're moving along, and you have just this introduction to this world that's very vague because you already understand that the character is on the outlying area of a city, but you don't really see the city. By the time that character is finished with what they're capable of in that set of storylines, or in their set storyline, I intended to just kind of move on with a friend, another character that just they enter into this situation and they basically take over from there, and we follow them as they're dealing with what's going on. Instead, I've decided to go back in time, and it might be a little bit annoying, but I figured that everything I had in the first chunk of it, there was a lot, and there's a lot that still needs to be expanded on. And even that alone covers, you know what, hold on. Let me get into it. But I'll find out about how many pages that covers overall. So I don't really feel bad for then skipping out and saying, you know what, you've had your fill with this type of situation. Let's move on to something that explains more about other characters, the world, things like that. I think that's pretty cool to do at the moment, but we'll see. Good, that's still there. Yeah, I know. What is this? This is the framework. Okay, I'm not gonna look at that again. I know it's in it, but I feel like if I pour over that, I'm gonna have to spend some time on it. But anyway, so what I'm calling chapter 1 goes for how long? "17 pages at the moment." Let me see. Yes, okay, so about 17 pages from the start. That's going to be worked on. But for right now, this is very abridged. It's very much, these are the biggest beats of it. There's absolutely no world building in terms of what things look like. There's no real life to the scenes. There's just the actions in the scenes. And even still, that goes for 17 pages. So, I've checkmarked that as good enough. I'm going to be moving on from there into just everything else. Basically, because all this stuff early on, chapter 1, even chapter, what's now in my mind, chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, stuff like that, was so early on. Because as I wrote it is how I wrote it. I didn't write later on. Well, technically I did, but let's get into that. But I didn't really, in the what I'm calling the main draft of it, I didn't write in the future and then go in the back and then I just do bouncing around. I went from the start. A character opens their fucking eyes and then we just fucking go. So, that being the case, I could see how that just, it's going to change. There's going to be more to it the more I write on the later ends of it, because that's where I feel about 50% on to the end. That's where I really get into a good rhythm for where the characters are, what they're doing, to the point where a couple streams ago I was like, oh man, I think I might start talking about world building type of stuff before I backpedaled on that. I was like, you know what, I'm having a lot of fun writing the actual meat of stories. I'm still going to put that on the back burner. But to my point, just being more grounded in how I feel comfortable writing, means that earlier stuff is going to be adjusted. It's going to be changed to fit that middle section that I'm so confident and I'm so comfortable in. Beyond that, there's still things way, way, way further in the narrative. For example, if I had to break it down to how long it takes for me to cover what I've already written in an appropriate, realistic, like, here's a book, how it goes, I have about 200 pages. The first 17 pages, like I said, just looking at it, that's going to double. So let's just round up, make it easy. I'm not good at math. 20 pages. This should be in the end somewhere around 40 to 50 pages. Before then, we go into this very large, very detailed kind of a step back in time. Which is all to say that that whole step back in time, it's to introduce the character that we're now meeting, but it's starting with him at just ground zero, the very, very first moments. And it's not even that character, it's all the characters around them and how they dealt with that. Because it's like a 3-year-old at that point when we meet him. And by the end of that, then we're going to be skipping back to where we are now and seeing him as an adult, more of an adult, dealing with the situation with a young person, which I think when I leave off in the story of this flashback, more or less, he's going to be about the same age as the character he's interacting with. So I feel like that makes it a lot more cohesive of being like, okay, so when he was this age, this is what he was working with, and now he's running into the situation as more of like twice his age at this point. What is he going to do? So I think that's kind of cool. I like how I'm building towards that. But again, so my main point was talking about a realistic idea of things. So the first chunk of it, I'm going to give it at least 50 pages in my mind palace of my story, saying in the end how long I would feel comfortable looking at that and saying that there's enough details there. Especially as I write more stuff, I'm going to want to add more stuff to the beginning. So I'm looking at that 17 and I'm like, 50? That sounds right. That sounds comfortable. That sounds like something that I could just easily bang out, even right now if I really looked at it. But I'm having more fun with the later stuff than the beginning stuff. So the beginning is good enough. Let's move on from there. Then, where are we all going as I continue my conversation about hopes and dreams, about the length of my bullshit. So then, okay, so that when we come back from what I'm currently working on, how long is this at the moment? That's too much. Okay, so this covers a very, very long, expansive time. So what I have happen is after we come back to them, we're with that character, we're dealing with them, they move into an instance where they're around other people, you see how they interact with them, but then it does a lot of skipping because originally it was just he enters into the situation, he gathers the character, they move on, they're in a new scene, and that's how it goes. But I didn't like that. That's way too brief. That's crazy brief. So I added a situation where there's other people who are aware of this other person's presence, and so people are coming out to try and help, and you get a good idea of the atmosphere, the types of people, and things like that. I like that a lot. And to be honest, before I went into this whole idea of stepping back in time, this is what I intended to work more on, but I don't expect it to be a long thing. It's just a beat. It's just a step where you see how things happen, but we need to move on. Things are better because of it. However, things aren't great by the time we pick up with things here. Okay, so as it starts, we have this big scene with the first character. It leads to a situation where we can't continue with them. We step back in time. We continue with another character, in essence, because, again, they're very, very young. We circle around them, and even in that, there's going to be breaks in time where we do move forward several years, capping off at around 8 or 9 years old. Then when we move back into the present, still following now that character. We have a small scene where they, like I said, they interact with a bunch of people. But then we move on. That moving on section needs a lot of filling out because that is the very first time you're going to be entering into this new area, and it needs details, but it doesn't have them yet because I haven't really pinned down the vibe that I want of that particular area. I have some other areas, some more grand special areas I have all written out, and I had a lot of fun writing that stuff. Because of the tone, because of just the vibe of the area that I was in, I really liked writing that because I feel like that area is essentially where I grew up. Because where I grew up in Jersey City, I'm on York Street. I could walk down York Street and I can get to the boardwalk, and the boardwalk was all these really upscale, beautiful, beautiful restaurants and buildings and stuff like that. And then you have the water, and right across you have New York, just all spread out there. But on your side, it's pretty quiet. At least when I was growing up in the city, my side of it was a little bit rough, but by the time I got to the boardwalk, it was just sweet. It was perfect. Like, it was more affluent in that area, and then from that just nicer slice of things, you can see across to New York City. So I thought that was absolutely dope. I digress. That area that I just described from my childhood is what I was writing a lot about. This is still an area that I also feel as though I kind of grew up around, but this is further out from that bit. So when I want to be particular when I describe the outlying areas that aren't doing so well. But yeah, I have that in mind, but nothing I really want to pin down right now. So this section that we move on to takes place all in that space that I really haven't given much solid vision to. So yeah, as it stands, that whole swath of things. Oh, oops. Let me check that out again. Print. Perfect. Yeah, that swath of things covers 14 pages, which is ridiculous. But I mean, it kind of sort of. When I was breaking things into chapters, I did my best. I was like, when I switch characters, maybe that's a good time. So there are sections where you're only with them for a small amount of time, for now. So a couple chapters are maybe a few pages, while several chapters are like 40, 50 pages, So that's what I'm looking at right now. But by the end of this next stage, I'm looking at page 14. But again, that's easily got a double. So looking at about 30 pages. I have a lot of work to do ahead of me. This is all me wishful thinking, more or less, of I know myself, I know what I want for certain beats of the story, and just filling in has never been a problem. It's just when I conceptualize what it looks like after being filled in, I feel like I'm pretty solid in being like, all right, this is ballpark what I want in that area. So that's all what's happening with that. That's all it is for the introduction. I call it the wrap. I call it the wrap up a couple times, but I was like, doesn't the wrap up mean that it should come at the end, not at the beginning? It doesn't matter. I'm sure other people will nitpick that for me, hopefully one day. At the moment, though, if you've ever been here before, you will be quite aware. Got to feed the cats. At the moment, I'm a little later in the day right now, so they're still, hunkered down, sleeping in other areas. But shake a few things with rattle the bag of food, and they'll pop up. So take care of them, get a little bit of tea on for myself while I'm listening to my jams, maybe sing a song or two, and then get to a little bit of work. Today, like I was saying, maybe later on, maybe I never even mentioned it, but today I need to make the difference between an outline and an overview. An overview is what I originally wrote. An outline is now, okay, I'm in the first 10 pages of what I'm doing. I need to write it down. I need to kind of say, this is exactly what I want to have happen. Kind of micromanage the chapter, more or less. That's what I want for my outline. Yeah, that's the plan. All right, let me get to the music and let me get going. Left. Pause. Okay, before I do get going, I will say this to the internet, the world, and whoever may see this at whatever point in time. There's not enough songs about Thor. Not cool songs about Thor and Asgard and just really like weird D&D nerdy shit that I'm like all about. I want more of that. Right now, Twilight of the Thunder God by Amon Amarth, which doesn't that mean Mount Doom in Lord of the Ringlish? Like Elvish or something like that? I think I learned that, I read that, I heard that at one point. I don't know. Somebody tell me if that's accurate. But I hear this and I'm like, yeah, this is like the peak. That's a shame. I mean, it's a great song. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like I should be exposed to more things. Like every other day, it should be like, hey, you want to hear a song about Asgard? Because I'm not really interested in it. But if you give me a cool song that sounds like it was made while like a bunch of people are on top of a mountain with like wind billowing through their hair and a snowstorm and dragons and lightning and shit, I'm all about that. That's cool. They're dope. More of that, please. That's all I'm asking. Let's get to it. Thor, Odin's son, protector of mankind, rise to meet your fate. Your destiny awaits. Alright. Tea is all set. Let's get these cats going. Alright, boys, come on, we're here. Yo, extra long intro today because my little boy is awake. There you go, sir. Alright, you're good, you're good. Let me get some clothes, some food, and all that good stuff for the kid. And then I'll be back to get going. I don't know, dude. This is going to be like a 15-minute BRB. Enjoy that one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Alright, let me get offline. I got some life stuff. So usually that's why I go on earlier. That way I'm able to kind of do everything while everyone's asleep and then shut down by the time people start waking up. But later start today, no big deal on that one. It's still about as long as I want, just basically telling people this is what's going on with the book, this is what's happening with my story, this is where I am in my headspace. So yeah, that's about it. I was probably gonna shut down by the time I get back anyway after just typing a few things. So good to go. Bye.